Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Black Book Today. My name's Sam McKee.
And I'm Bob Hayden.
And we thank you for joining us. The world of harness racing has so many great storylines and so many great personalities. And Bob, you've talked to several of them.
That's right. We're going to take you inside the world of harness racing, inside this very complex here, as the entire harness racing universe is here the first week of November at Harrisburg. We're going to find out who the major players are and who's hot and who's not.
Enjoy this edition of the Black Book Today.
In an attempt to lure some trainers and drivers and breeders and owners, we put out a brunch buffet, and it worked. Join us now for some interviews we call Breakfast with Bob here at Harrisburg. I'm joined by trainer Paul Kelly. And Paul, yearling sale, mixed sale come up at Harrisburg. What's our concentration? What are we looking at here?
Well, for me, I'll probably be concentrating mostly on New York breds. The money's getting better in New York. I'm trying to simplify my life a little bit with a little bit less traveling. But that's not to say that I'm not going to cross over state lines and look at Pennsylvania and New Jersey as well, because as much as I'd like to race in New York, I also like racing on the Grand Circuit, and you know, you're always shooting for that pot of gold. So.
And when you have a filly like Quick Credit, you can't just race in New York because she's good enough to race in the Grand Circuit.
She was. She proved herself worthy enough. She had a little bit of an up and down year this year, but she's definitely a high-class filly.
Art Major, New York, a lot of interest in his first crop. Are you looking in that direction too?
Not really. I think I'd wait on a horse like that and see what he does. I think a lot of the people that were buying, Art Majors in Lexington were buying with the Grand Circuit in mind. I didn't really see a lot of New York buyers per se chasing those horses. It seemed to me more Grand Circuit type buyers. Now,
concerning racehorses yourself, do you buy some racehorses too? Do you start from square one with everything, or do you buy some of the 2 and 3 year olds?
I pretty much start. The last few years I've been starting from square one. It's not to say now that the money's getting better, even at my home base of Saratoga, you always have your eye open looking for a quality racehorse to come in the barn, and certainly with the money that is going to get generated at Yonkers, and you've got to look in all directions and kind of keep doors open to any possibility.
Very happy to be joined by Joe Holloway. Joe, I just saw you over there checking out some video footage. Nowadays, when you want to buy a yearling, there's a lot bigger advantages to finding out about a horse than it was years ago. Technology's really caught up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the videos help a lot. For years, everybody said you had to go to a farm. Well, the reason for that was to be able to see the horses and identify how they move. With the stake schedule and trainer schedules and what have you, it's very tough to get to every farm. The videos make it much easier that you at least see the horse and some, resemblance of how they move.
It seems like there's a first crop sire mania no matter what year it is. And last year, Andover Hall, and he certainly proved out. Art Majors, several others.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Absolutely, we're a first crop business. First crop sires bring a premium. Andover Hall sold, I think the average around 70,000 last year. He had the year that they paid for. I don't know if the average will be any higher this year, even though he's had great production, because we pay such a premium on first crop sires. This year, there's horses out there, and Art Major, and they're paying for it. They wouldn't bring any more if they were by Western Ideal or a proven sire. So it's funny. I don't know, but we're such a first crop business. In the thoroughbred business, they're not so much, and the better mares go to your older established sires. For some reason in our business, people run to what's new, and your better mares go there, and that's where people follow.
Yeah, as a trainer, how much of your job has changed in the 20, 25 years you've been training?
Well, it is a catch driver business. We use catch drivers. You maintain your horses. I think that it's changed. Not so much in that, but the way we have to handle our horses. Our breeds changed. Every 4 years basically is a generation in a horse. So over 12 years, horses change. Horses are very different looking, their temperament's different than they were 20 years ago. So your training methods have to change.
Joe Holloway, thanks so much for stopping by. You had the world's fastest racehorse for almost a full decade, Genesis Speedway, 147.3. Thanks. Good luck at the sale.
Thank you.
We're joined by Bob Marks from Peretti Farm. And Bob, first things first, the stallion roster at Peretti is powerful. Give us a little bit of an update. Let's start with Muscles Yankee right off the bat.
Well, Muscles Yankee, he's been one of the top stallions since inception. And we probably are going to be selling the greatest crop of Muscles Yankees we've ever raised. Certainly the colt out of Vernon Blue Chip and the colt out of My Star Chip and the colt out of Mallelujah. They're showcase colts. I would anticipate that he's going to have a phenomenal year next year.
Where's the sport going right now, in your opinion? There's a lot of slot talk, a lot of slot provinces, there's a lot of slot states coming up. A lot of emphasis on slots lately, isn't there?
Seems to be. I mean, basically, we're breeding racehorses, and it seems like we're getting a lot of subsidiary help. I'm not so sure that that's something to be proud of, but on the same token, I think if we're smart, we'll use this temporary infusion of revenues, of money. I think we'll use it intelligently and maybe devise some marketing programs and some kind of a think tank to get the sport back in the public light where it used to be.
Are sires allowed to have a bad year?
It's very hard in this business for a sire to have a bad year. They usually pay dearly for it the next year. It's a very unforgiving business.
Have you ever seen three brothers leading 2-year-old earnings? Conway Hall, Angus Hall, and Andover Hall. You ever seen that before?
No, no.
Incredible.
I think it is incredible, and I would imagine most of the credit probably would have to go to that broodmare, Amore Angus. She's got to be one of the all-time great broodmares.
Well, Bob Marks from Peretti Farm, thanks so much for stopping by, and good luck at both the mixed and the yearling sale here at Harrisburg.
Thank you, sir.
First day at Harrisburg, I'm joined by a couple of men named George. George Teague, George Foreman are here today, that's right, and they're active on the floor and bidding. First, George Foreman, your interest in harness racing began exactly when?
Boy, way back in the 70s when I got a chance to watch the horses at, what is it, Roosevelt Trackway? Way back
Westbury, Long Island?
Yeah, Long Island.
Yeah, sure.
I got a chance they allowed me to work out and run on the same tracks. So these were athletes, beautiful athletes, and they could outrun me. So I decided, look, one day when I have some time, I'd like to get involved.
And how'd you wind up getting hooked up with Mr. George Teague?
Too many people said too many good things about him, and it was one of those people you just you couldn't get into business without.
George Teague, you've been very successful in the yearling sales last several years. Is that snowball going to continue rolling, or do we peak, or how's
I hope so, because I'm
here?
investing my money into it too, so I hope it keeps snowballing.
But you did it like on a shoestring budget last couple of years, but last year you invested
Yeah, stepped
a
up a
little
little bit more, and
Yeah.
and this year I stepped up even a little bit more. So the market's changing, so you got to change with it. You can't make it up yourself. So.
Well, let's see,
I've been able to
Western
step back
Ace,
in.
Total Truth, the Rainbow Blue. It's a pretty tough act to live up to.
Oh, I know, man. Pressure's
Three
on.
millionaires in 3 years, George. How are we going to
That's
do this?
not bad numbers, is it?
But don't you want to get the man on your right a nice horse too?
I'm trying. That's what we're here today for.
What'd you
so
look
a little
at
bit
so
of luck.
far today?
Well, we picked up one. We picked up Art Major
Okay.
out of a good family. So with a little bit of luck, Mary's got a good percentage. So.
Now this is a yearling sale, George Foreman. How patient are you concerning young horses? Because yearlings don't get to the races, sometimes don't even race it too, so it might be a while.
You know what? I'm having fun. So far, it's not all business. See, I'm having a lot of pleasure, and when you're enjoying yourself to that degree, where it doesn't matter, each day is just a pleasure. So I'm not in a rush.
Do you feel yourself wanting to raise your hand a few more times than you did, or did
Yeah, I mean, I have
put
to
your hand
hold
down?
myself down. It's not easy to sit out there when everything comes about. It looks beautiful and ready to win the race.
You were a multiple heavyweight championship titleist. Would you take one of those belts and trade it for a Pace or a Hamiltonian trophy, maybe?
Oh boy, what about the brown jug?
Brown jug? There you go. There you go.
Hamiltonian especially. If I could get one of those titles, I'd be a happy man. I would just go out into the sunset.
Okay, so now we saw George Foreman. We saw you on Hamiltonian Day. Now we're seeing you in Harrisburg. When can harness racing expect to see you again in 2007?
I'm just going to be everywhere, especially when there's a horsetail wagging. I'm going to follow them around.
So everywhere and anywhere you're going to be?
Follow the trotting horse.
Okay,
and the pacing horse.
and this man right here is going to be training for you.
That's right. I'm looking forward to this.
Well,
a long relationship.
I wish you guys the best of luck with your purchase and maybe purchases before the week's out. And George T. continued success, and hopefully you can get him in the winner's circle for one of the big races in 2007 and beyond.
Hopefully
Wouldn't that
we're
be
trying.
wonderful? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Okay, guys, good luck.
Thank you, Hollywood.
We're with Jeff Snyder, one of the most prominent owners in the sport, who has opened up his checkbook once again and bought the sale topper so far. Hit number 66, satin pillows for $350,000. Conway Hall. Jeff, this is a trotter. You're knowing more for Pacers. What's up?
Oh my God, I hope I didn't make a mistake. I thought she was a pacer. You know?
Actually,
I want to get my money back.
Actually, the trotting game is something you're starting to branch out into.
Yeah, we had a little luck this year with the trotter we bought. And actually, when we went through the book, we found the pedigrees on the trotters a lot more interesting than the pacers. You know, it doesn't look like any top standout pacers on the page. You know, we go a lot by the pedigree, so the families didn't look like they didn't jump out at you.
Speaking of pedigree, this filly has it all. She's by Conway Hall, and she's a half-sister to perhaps the best 2-year-old trotting filly we've seen in a long time. That's Pampered Princess.
Yes, and the mare has had, I think, 2 foals. One was by Trade Balance, earned about $765,000. Pampered Princess is arguably the best 2-year-old pacing filly in the country. And, you know, we just took a shot. It's the same cross. You know, Conway Hall is a full brother to Andover Hall, and she's eligible for the New York Sire Stakes as a possible exit strategy,
as a fallback position.
And even we feel there's residual value in having a trotting mare like this. You know, even if, God forbid, you know, she wouldn't be able to make it, we could always breed her and then sell her offsprings or keep her offspring. So, you know, and she had it all, the pedigree and the looks. You know, we can't buy one. We got to buy them both, especially when you're spending that kind of money.
We're with trainer Doug McIntosh of Wheatley, Ontario, known as the man who won the Hambletonian with Yankee Paco. But Doug, you were kind of a forerunner in the sport, marketing your services on the internet.
Yes, and when the internet came out, we were one of the first to have a website. But prior to that, we did publish a newsletter. We started off by sending out a short little one-page to our owners and that we had there with horses with us, and they kept adding their friends and pretty soon the media and whatever. And when we closed out the last issue, we were sending out about 350 copies.
So did you attract some new owners from those marketing approaches?
I definitely did. I think so. People become aware of you're there and what you do, and they like to be kept up to speed. And we feel it was quite successful.
It's so strange in harness racing. Very few trainers actually market their services. And if there's some prospective owners out there watching our broadcast today, how do they go about hooking up with a trainer and getting involved in the business?
Well, I think that, first of all, when you find a trainer, you got to do a little bit of reference work, find out what their credibility is, because they are handling your money. And you've got to be able to communicate with them. And there's different trainers and owners that have different connections, and it all works out.
Now, what's the best way for a new guy to get involved in the sport? Should they buy a yearling and take their chances that 9 months down the road they'll have a good colt, or are they better off to buy a horse that's racing right now for that instant gratification?
Well, I find that most brand new owners that are attracted at the raceway level, they like to have maybe a claimer or something they buy immediately. But it seems like it's not long before they levitate to wanting a colt or a younger horse. Because most owners, that if they like horses and a claimer, they might lose them in 2 weeks, and then they're all kind of upset and they got to do it again.
Now, are there any stables like mutual funds where you can buy a piece of the action, kind of spread out your risk a little bit and still have the enjoyment?
Yeah, there are 2 or 3 stables out there right now, active stables doing that. In fact, I've got some of my clients that have branched out, and they're doing that to let the guy in with just maybe $5,000.
So a minimum investment can get you a maximum amount of fun. Do you still have your website up and running, and what is it?
We still have it up and going, and it's DougMcIntoshStables.com.
There you go, www.DougMcIntoshStables.com if you want to get involved in the business.
Hi, I'm Jamie Rucker with the United States Trotting Association, and here with me today, leading trainer Ron Burke of the Mickey Burke Stable, and 2 of Ron's owners, Tom Cherichello and Larry Carr. Today we're going to talk about how the 3 of these guys prepare for the Harrisburg sale. Ronnie, how do you prepare yourself and your father and your stable for the Harrisburg sale?
Well, you know, first of all, and I think both of you guys would agree with this, that this is our major sale. We still are, you know, this is where you're going to see the most Pennsylvania bred babies, and that's where we're based. So we're, you know, this is going to be the one we put the most effort to. You have the biggest selection, and you have the best farm in the country in Hanover, and Winback. They have their major 2 consignments here. So this is where we come to do our work to pick, you know, hopefully, you know, the foundation for next year's success is built here.
Do you put aside money for Harrisburg, or do you have one huge budget that you know you're going to spend? Do you map it out at the beginning of the season? How do you prepare yourself, like, for money-wise, I guess?
Pretty much now it's, you know, usually we, you know, because of the success we've had, that we have enough opportunity to buy the horses in our price range, as many as we wish to buy. You know, the bigger thing is the number, to try to keep the number to a manageable number. That buying them is the easy part, but you still have to, you know, pay to have them trained and staked, and that's where the true money comes in. So the bigger part is figuring out how many do you really want to carry through to next year, because you have to, you know, watch your numbers, because you can get too big, you know, and we really have to watch it with us, because we have a tendency to let the stable get bigger and bigger.
Harrisburg has 1,000 yearlings selling, and so you have to try to figure out a way that you're going to attack looking at, not saying we're going to look at 1,000 yearlings, but we're going to look at several hundred yearlings. And so in order to do that in the most efficient way, we just basically try to map out the horses we want to look at by consignment. And in order to do that, we just do a lot of research on the horses through Pathway and other sort of publicly available databases to get as much information as we can on each yearling, so that when it's time to actually inspect the yearlings, we have a good plan to go about attacking the yearling sale.
So what do you look up on Pathway? Do you just research each individual yearling that you're going to look at, or you pretty much you kind of know, just from the business and being in it for so long, you know a lot of the bloodlines and records and whatnot, so do you just look at the ones in question, or?
No, it's a little bit of both. So we look at least I look at every yearling that is in our category, basically pacing yearlings in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, maybe even Ontario and Kentucky. And so from then we have I use Pathway to find out what other yearlings in that family have sold for, what their race records have been, a little bit more about the horses, who's trained them, et cetera, things like that. And then we also, at least what I do, I have also a database myself of every yearling that we've looked at in the last 5 years and what either Ronnie and Mickey Burke have said about them. And I maintain that database, which helps us, I think, prepare for the sale each year.
The 3 of us are all big fans of the sport, and, you know, watch a million races. And we pass the day with, you know, basically also quizzing each other on trying to trump each other on who knows more, and, you know, who, you know, pays better attention and can remember this horse. And, you know, these guys are older than me, so of course they have that on me. But, you know, since then I've caught
wisdom.
them.
It's much more
Yeah.
wisdom.
I think remembering a horse can really be a benefit, because you get caught up on pedigree, which is, I think, clearly the most important thing. I'm sure anyone you talk to would agree. But sometimes a horse's desire, I'll give you a perfect example to me, was Western Ace's dam was a horse, Alice, raced in Delaware, Maryland. George T. remembered the mare and bought Western Ace. I'm like, how do we not bid on Western Ace? One of us dropped the ball, because I remember Alice, Larry does, as a real hard-knocking, hard-trying mare, but not well-bred, not particularly well-bred. So the price was really low. And another great example is Kristen Barbara, the dam of Gun That Won the West.
And Cam's Fast Gun.
Cam's Fast Gun. I mean, she was a 15-claimer mare. I think the owners kept her and bred her, but I remember her as being a hard-knocking, really, you know, hard-trying 15-claimer. So it's not always about pedigree.
I think listening to all of you and talking about remembering bloodlines and remembering who trained who and who raced who and what horses were what, would you recommend, obviously, to a new owner to hook up with somebody that's been in the business, hook up with somebody that knows the industry, and pick their brain?
A new owner, you know, get a knowledgeable trainer that you can trust, or some kind of other advisor that, you know, you can pick his brain. It's like if you get sick, you're not going to try to learn how to cure yourself through medical books. You're going to go to a doctor that, you know, has training.
Yeah, I mean, Tom and I have talked about this many times. I mean, as much preparation as we do for the sales, I mean, I would never buy a yearling on my own. I just simply don't know enough about conformation to have enough faith in myself to make that selection. So I need to have our trainer, Ronnie and Mickey Burke, make those selections, because in the end, the yearling inspection, physical inspection, is the most important part of whatever we're going to do today.
So there you have it, the secret of success behind the Burke, Chercello, and Carr team. Thank you very much for joining us.
One of the busiest guys here at Harrisburg is Bob Bonney of Northwood Bloodstock. And Bob, so many trainers have said, oh, it's conformation, it's balance, it's that sort of thing. What exactly are they talking about when looking at yearlings?
I think it's a little bit of both, a little bit of everything. I think you combine everything, Sam, when you look at a horse. Everybody has different preferences, some a little more weight on the conformation, a little more weight on the pedigree. Myself, I think you have to have a little bit of both. And if I had to lean one way, I'd probably lean pedigree a little more.
If you want to get a better understanding of conformation, what can we learn from the mixed sale?
I've said to people for years, if you want to get a little idea of conformation, get a little knowledge, a little understanding, go to the mixed sale, pick out the black book, and pick out the top, say, 40, 50, 60 horses and look at them. And I think you'll start to get a little better sense what a good horse looks like. And I don't think you'll be surprised by the horses that have accomplished something, that have earned 2 or 3 or 400,000, how you start to see certain similarities and that there's a quality that you won't find in the cheaper horses.
Do you see the same conformation traits from the same bloodlines?
I think there's a consistency. I think across the board there'll be consistencies, there'll be exceptions, but I think you'll see certain stallions throw certain things, certain broodmare sires will throw certain qualities, certain flaws, certain positive conformation qualities. But there's a consistency.
And if there's a new owner or a prospective owner, how long is it going to take them to learn something about conformation? Do you pick it up in a week, or is it years and years of experience?
It may take a very long time. You got to look at a lot of horses. You know, the people that are here doing this for a living, be it trainers, agents, whatever, they do this full time. So they look at a lot of horses. And the best thing I can say is to look at a lot of horses. Look at a lot of good horses, bad horses, know who you're looking at, and it's a learning process, because after a while you're going to start to develop a little bit of an idea of what seems to stay more with the better horses and what's not. You know, when you look at yearlings, you'll see some that look a little different, a little stronger, a little more depth, maybe a little more quality, and some that maybe you look at and say just that they're too small or there's just not enough to them. When you go and look at the older horses that have now performed, that have accomplished something, I think you start to get a greater sense of what works, what doesn't work. But I think part of it is looking at a lot of horses, and that's not something you can do just come in here and looking at 20 or 30 and then not looking at horses for another few months. It's something that, it's a constant.
That's a basic look at conformation with one of the best in the business, Bob Bonney of Northwood Bloodstock.
I'm joined by Jeff Stein from Preferred Equine Marketing, and we're going to take a look at the catalog. Now, before we even open to a page, pedigree, very important, and appearance. Which one's more important right off the bat?
Well, I'd say now people are paying a premium for conformation. There's so many well-bred horses today, and they come from anywhere. I think, you know, most people, if they have a good individual, that's the start. People won't compromise for an inferior individual today.
But you want that good-looking horse, and you also want the pedigree, if you can, to match. Let's open, if we can, to a program page, because this book can be a little bit intimidating to certain people. You open the book, you're not that familiar here, you didn't come with an awful lot of money. What's the first, second thing we look at there?
So you start, you look at the first dam, you want to see if she's produced anything, but more importantly, I think you want to see what the whole family has done. If the family is good in the second and third dam, and it has a long history of producing winners, even, you know, back second and third dam, that's a good start.
And we're going to want to see where it's eligible too, so in case I live there or want to race in that area. But what about, that's an arts place there, what about that's a little bit more than my budget allows?
Well, I think, like I said before, I think you have a lot of, right now the market for first crop stallions is very high. People, they're willing to spend money on the unproven. They look for great horses, they look for something that's fresh, something they haven't seen. So I think there can be a lot of value in some of the more established sires, some of the more proven sires. And particularly, if you're looking for value, particularly maybe a mare that has produced in the past, maybe hasn't produced this year or the year before, but is a proven producer and in fall to a proven stallion. Because like I say, the premium today is on the unproven. And I would say, you know, generally speaking, someone first coming into the business, it's a difficult process, the yearling, because you have to purchase the horse, you have to stake the horse, you have to train the horse, and you have to wait. You have to be patient. Maybe you'll race at 2, maybe you'll race at 3. Racehorse, you come, Hopefully you buy the right horse, you can put him in the box next week, and it's a good way to learn about the business. You know, most people, and myself included, when you get started with a racehorse. You get to learn about pedigrees, you get to learn about crosses, and then it's a lot easier to go into the yearling market.
So if someone's just getting involved, they can come see yourself at Preferred. They can go to Bob Bonney or anybody, Hanover Shoe Farm, and find out, hey, what's the best direction to go? I want to get myself a horse, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 years old.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a person who came to the sale for the first time and he was looking for a little direction, you know, I would point him to proven mares, proven families, proven producers, not worry so much about the sire, not worry about whether the sire is particularly in vogue this year or not. I would concentrate more on what the family has done, what the mare has done, because there I think you have an opportunity to get real value. And, you know, zero in on that to start, and then look for an individual that matches.
Okay, Jeff Stein from Preferred Equine, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Bob.